What up, everybody? How you doing? It's your boy Jedi Granville, and I just want to say you are looking at history in the making for me because this is my first official video I'm doing that has an intro, and it's not just me starting up from the black. Well, I am black, but it's starting from something to get you your mouth watering for whatever's coming next. And here we are. So this is officially my intro, and you are here with me, Jedi Granville Productions, and I am the one and only Jedi Granville, which is also sexual chocolate, but I'm also known as Walter Ross, but I'm not going to use that name because that's a government issue name. But anyway, getting to what is being brought to you today, and hopefully you enjoy, which I know you will. I'm going to be talking about a film that I particularly love out of all of Ashiro Honda's films as he's done. Now, you would think Godzilla, the original one, would be my favorite. You think it would be my favorite, but surprisingly, it's not. I mean, I love Godzilla, and I love Godzilla to the day I die. But you got to remember, everyone has their likes and dislikes. And my particular film that I like the most about is Matango. Matango is one of those films that is such a you would never think that this film would be that kind of film that's it's like I'm not going to get much into it. But the grand thing about this film is, and the crazy thing about it is, in the United States, it's called Attack of the Mushroom People. It's such a corny name, and being westerns, I guess they say, well, let's give it a corny name because that's what it's dealing with. It's dealing with mushrooms. But this film is much more layered than we'll ever know, because if you're not a fan of tokusatsu films or even kaiju films of the past, you may be the ones, especially if you're just out of the ordinary Westerner, you might just think, it's just something silly, or just not really something I want to get into. But the thing about this is, this film is much richer and darker than you might think it is. It's kind of something I told Sci-Fi Century. It's more like a dark Gilligan's Island version of this film. Way before Gilligan's Island even came on to play. And I could say too, it's also more of a, how can I put it? It's kind of the start of the J horror genre, because at this time there was really no real J horror movies to speak of in terms of what is being brought to the film. And this movie is more a psychological, you know, kind of thing into madness, because it's dealing with seven, you know, people who, when you watch it, you have to really have to get into it, and then realize what it's all about. But to give a breakdown of this film, this is a 19 Toho 19 is a Toho 1963 film. It of course is it was written by, well, when I say written, it was directed by Shiro Honda and produced by Tomonaki Kanata. I mean, I'm saying this name right. Tomonaki 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 Takada. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry. And it's based on, believe it or not, this film is actually based on a American book called "The Voice in the Night" by William Hope Hutchinson. And like I say, when you get into the film, you feel like, well, what's this? It's called Attack of the Mushrooms. That's the Western name. No big deal. So what? This is where you get to realizing that when you see this film, it is much more than that. It is something like this. It's dealing with mutated mushrooms and the people who had to endure it, you know. So it's way more than what you think it is. You think that's kind of silly. The silliness is bad. You might see that and think like that's what that's all about. No, the scary thing about this film is how human nature becomes untangled, how humans become inhuman, not by form, but by psychological thinking. Because this movie is more psychological than anything else. It's a total, and I'm just going to say it, it's a total mind fuck. Okay, I'll just say that. I mean, this is my channel. I'm going to say, and I should know, you should be warned that I'm going to say a few profane words, not to just be out there saying it. I'm saying it because this movie really does do that to the subconscious. It has that bearing. But to get to what the story is all about, as I said before, it's more like a thank you. All right. It's more like a dark version of Gilligan's Island. So, what is this? Where's how the story begins? Okay, the story begins with the lead character, which is pull him up here. I think I have. Do I have him here? Yes, here it is. In fact, yes, one of the lead characters, Akira Kube. He's the young man here who is one of the leads. It starts with him in a hospital, and you think like, okay, it starts with him. You don't think much about it, but he's telling his story of something that happened to him previously. We don't know how long ago, but he's there. And I must point out, when you see this film, I have to say this film is beautifully shot. Let me come back. This movie is very beautifully shot. I have to say it's beautifully shot. It's very coordinated, and I love how it has been filmed. In it's filmed in a I'm trying to say the words, getting brain fart here. It's filmed in a um, it's widescreen. Let's just say that it's filmed in widescreen. But I love the contrast of how the widescreen is used. It's funny how some films are not using the widescreen aspect and do it justice. This film does a good justice of that particular aspect ratio, because when you have seven characters, how can you portray them in a way where they fill up the screen? This film does this very well, but I'll get back to that later. But like I say, it starts off with the film with him in the hospital. He's doing well. I mean, when I say doing well, he's in the hospital, but he's what's going on with him, we don't really know. So it's with him, he's primarily telling his side story about what went down, where he was, and all this. And then all of a sudden, bang! It flashbacks to where the original seven people are on a cruise, in his sailboat. And I must tell you, when it first starts, you get this very eerie, very dreadful music playing. Okay, you think like, okay, what's going on here? This is very dreadful. This is very whatever is going on here. So I was like, all right, that's kind of twingy here. But I mean, you don't really know what's going on. But once it does that, the music switches from after we're seeing him in the hospital, we switch to being in the ocean, and it's the score just trips your mind and does a total 180 and saying, oh, everything's fun, everything's pretty much happy-go-lucky kind of moment. But we soon will find out that's going to be a very telling moment when all that changes, because this is where we break down and get to know the characters one by one. We get to know the characters in the moments here. Um, I'm I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna try to butcher their names, but I will mention the different people that are here. This is the not the crew, but the people who are stranded on the island. And one by one, I'll just say one by one, we have the so-called rich guy, which is on the left hand side. He's pretty much mooching off his father's money. The woman that's next to him, that's kneeling down, she's a singer who's pretty much, if you want to say, kind of a what you call gold digger of the time. And we see a Kube's character right here. He's holding this woman right here. That's his fiance. They're on this trip. He takes this trip with these individuals. The one holding the rifle, you've seen this character before, and as I said before, in time I'll try to get these names out well where I won't butcher their names. But he's the captain of the boat, and he works for the rich guy, the one with the white hat. And next to him is his co-pilot, which is I know his name pretty well. It's Kenji Sahara. And I have to say, Kenji Sahara, he, for the life of me, he does an excellent, brilliant job of, because before this film, he was always playing more of the, how can I say, more of the boyish, very clean cut, very, the protagonist, as I like to say. He's not playing no kind of smarmy kind of individual. Here, this is the first time he's playing someone who is such a smug, such a discrepant, just a very piece of crap. He's that kind of person. And and I feel he does a good job of acting in here. Everyone does, but like I say again, and the person kneeling down beside him, he's a writer. He's one of the many that's, and you think, with these people, they wouldn't have not so much of an interaction, but do you think that there wouldn't be so much of a cause and effect with them, being where they're at, everything. But you're going to find out the stabilization of humanity will happen way before they get to the island. Where they're at, when it happens, they start to have this. But once they get on the island, it just triples in their downfall of their erasing of humanity from them. So, getting back to the story in terms of him, okay, they're on the sea, they're on, and they're sailing, and they get word that there's a hurricane about, and they say, you feel like, okay, maybe they should turn back, be safe, because there's two women on board, and we should not, do like some guys. It's like, let's push on, let's just do this. But the rich man, he says, like, well, come on, let's keep going, let's keep doing this. It's like, and it's like, no, we got two women on board. The captain says we got two women on board, and the singer, she says, I'm not afraid, I can push on. And the woman, the woman that's the fiance to Kube's character, and she's a student, I should say. That's another thing. She's a student. She says, okay, I think I can go too. I think I can go on. It's like, I mean, and just so you know, this is the thing about this. I told you that you're going to be stripped of humanity. This girl is an innocent. And one of the things you realize when you watch this film is that how easily people who are innocent can get so, wanted so badly, because they've not been tainted by other individuals or certain things of life. So, but to get back to the story, the storm comes. It does what it does, and it actually breaks the mast of the boat. So, excuse me for shaking here. It sails on for a good three or 2 days, something like that, And in the midst of this is where we start to get a breakdown of the people. And one of the things you'll find out is that the female student, she, as I said, she's an innocent. And the rich man, he, as much as he has the singer, as much as he takes her places and travels and all these things, his sense of awareness sees something that is a temptation, is a forbidden fruit, if you will. And people notice this, people see this, and it's like little by little everything's deteriorating around them, whether it be with food, whether just moral conduct, or just the fact that your animalistic feelings of someone comes into play. So, like I say, this is way before we get to the island. When we get to the island, then this is when the stabilization of humanity comes into play. So we get to the island. We get to where we're seeing it's a pretty beautiful island. It's pretty decent, but the island for itself has been inhabited by others, but you don't really know when and where this happens. And on their exploration of exploring the island, seeing if there's any food or water, fresh water, and everything, they discover there has been people on here. And in the midst of this, they find a derelict ship that's been there for God knows how long. We don't know how long it's been there. And when you get on board the ship, you see that there's it's like it's covered in like this moss. It's just been there for for so often. And what they discover is a research ship dealing with nuclear testing and everything. And the interesting thing about this is that this is good what the script does. It doesn't give no nationality what the boat belongs to, because even they say it could belong to Russia, it could belong to America, it could even belong to China or Japan. They don't know. It doesn't have no registration whatsoever of who it belongs to. So getting on the flow of things, they say, well, let's try to look to see that there's food or whatever around, and try to put that to gun up, because we're going to need this. Food is number one thing key in what we do here. Well, in the midst of this, they discover there's some food in the pantry that's been there. It was left by the people who was on the boat before. And in the midst of all this, they got to say, we got to ration these things out, because we got to make sure that we ration things out, because, it's seven of us. Can't let our so-called better demons or worse demons come out. We got to be better angels, as the saying goes. Well, that goes without saying, but the thing about this is, before anything comes up, they see that there's somebody or someone or something that's crawling on the boat that they're on. That's the research boat. And they don't know what this is, but this person is disfigured by, give you an example. I don't think I did. No, I didn't. Well, I'll just put it like this. It's kind of looks like this person on the right hand side of the screen of this one popping up, but they have clothes on. Their face is very disfigured. It's very, kind of like mutated in some sense of the word. So through this, we see where people's mentality starts to really fade away in some sense of the word, because like I say, humanity is supposed to be the thing that kind of glues them and keeps them from turning into savage beasts. Well, the rich guy, he steals in the middle of the night food for himself, and he doesn't really care. But this particular mutated man that comes on, who's kind of like everything, he come encounters with him, and he gets scared, and he yells and tells people, I need help. I need this. It was like, and the women kind of see it, but they don't really see it, but they're about to see it. So, hold up a second. Notification. Okay. Sorry about that. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, it's anyway, getting back to what I was saying about the situation in the middle of the night, the they come across another situation where they're eating breakfast or anything like that, and this is a scene here that I think is really good, where they're sitting at the table and they start to have a really breakdown moment. And this is where the second mate, which is played by Sahara's son, he just like angrily say, "What are you people doing? What are you acting like this? Why are you saying you seeing things and blah 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 and all that stuff." It's like, no, dude, you know. But he makes good points about what he's saying, you know, and angrily tells, it's like saying that, the singer who's kind of a fast woman, I might take this woman for myself and, have my way with her. And she actually says, she's like, is anyone going to, kind of say something about this? And I get you not, all the males pretty much go like, it's not that far off from the truth. You are kind of that way, So it's this mentality, and then she, you know, tells. I mean, front out says, this the rich man is like, well, I'll only be with you because you're take me places and all these other things. And now your worth is not even worth anything. Whatever you were before ain't worth shit. And it's like, dude, this is a core moment in the film where everything is just starting to just go to pot. It's just like, no, nothing's what it is. And I have to say, this scene in the movie, this is where I come in about the aspect ratio, anamorphic. That's what I was trying to say earlier. The anamorphic lens structure of the widescreen. I love how they have people on. In fact, give you an example of what I'm talking about, where you have people on the left side of the screen, but at the same time, you have people on the right hand of the screen, and it's not just there for show, it's more for, storytelling, and it's more for effectiveness. It's showing that they're still important to the story. And I love how they do it because you have everyone, all seven actors in the movie, all in that one shot where you don't have to do a lot of cutting or pan around. They're in that one shot. This person's right here, this person's right there, and they're still acting against one another. And I love how that aspect ratio works in this moment. This is a perfect example where aspect ratios of a certain camera, of how it's filmed and everything, works beautifully. I love how it's done in this film, because if it was not done this way, if it had been done in like a 1.85 ratio, you could get away with it, but the story wouldn't be hold up. This aspect ratio, where it's in widescreen 2.55, you really show the interactions of the people, their responses, and how it goes. In that scene with where at the table, then everything's breaking down more. It really plays into this, and I just love how it does this. So, moving on from this, Sahara's son, he pretty much, his character saying like, you know, it's raining, because it's raining at this point. It's raining. You shouldn't care about it. It's raining. You're gonna get wet anyway. Go out there and look for more water. Look for food. Look for something. We're gonna get wet no matter what. It's like, dude, this is part of hard work. This is what's called hard labor. This is what's known as living. This is how you survive. Survivor's note is, you got to put all that bullshit about the aspect of ratio of living in terms of comfort, strip that away and realize like you're gonna have to get down and dirty with some things. And he's pretty much saying he's spitting facts. He's spitting facts when he says this. And when he does this, it really hones in, showing that yes, I get it. And I'm listening to this. It's like, he makes very tangible talks when he says this thing. So, and I should mention too, the rich guy. He's not that he's been so privileged all his life. He's one of those individuals that he's like, I don't want to get out there and work. It's like, dude, if you don't get your ass up and go, you. And this is where the captain, the skipper, as I say, he pretty much is telling him, you need to go out and do this. You need to do this, And this is a moment between these two where you realize, because he's an employee of the rich guy, and the rich man tells you, I paid for your schooling, I paid for your, through everything what you was doing. And it's like, yeah, right, you did that, but you was more like, you pretty much hired me like a fucking secondhand, slave in a sense, which is part of what he was trying to say. You bought me is what he's pretty much saying. You bought me. You didn't, pay for whatever I was doing. You pretty much bought my soul just to work for your ass, and that's pretty much what he was saying. But like I say, this is where everything breaks down. This is where everything just slowly and in a way it starts to accelerate more and breaking down. So, and that's the thing about these moments. It's like, you think you have these mutated mushroom people. You think that's the real horror of the story. No, it's the humanity being left from the humans. So, to continue on, we see how they're getting food, they're finding things, but at the same time, people are betraying one another, like the secondhand mate, Sahara's character. He's hiding food, and Skipper sees this, and he's just like, wow, really? But in a way, you realize, like, I guess that makes sense. That's exactly how things are. This is it's every person for themselves to this point. It's sad that it's like that, but sometimes it is like that, and that's a reflection on real life here. If you're stuck in those kind of positions, what is you as a person? Are you going to show your human side in order to survive? Or are you going to become an animal? That comes out of you're pretty much your id side, as I like to say, that dark side of yourself. So, in the midst of all these things, we see that, and I should have mentioned the writer. Everyone has a part in this movie. He does what he does. He does what he says. He did everything, and he comes in contact with some of the mushrooms that I'm talking about, the ones that you can eat. He does eat some of these, and slowly he starts to fall into madness. When I say madness, it starts to change him, not just mentally, but physically. But it's more mental than anything. And throughout this, you feel like, okay, we're dealing with food, we're dealing with water. What's the other mechanics of human beings that's something that will be desired in this moment? Well, and crazy as it sounds, you think it wouldn't happen, but let's be honest, human beings, and I've said this many times with some people, we're some very strange creatures. When it comes to the nature of the beast in terms of sex is an element that does not erase from the mentality of man. Human beings, when they crave that moment, when they crave those kind of mechanics of human beings, human psychology. That is a moment where you realize, like, okay, there's two women on board, and it's five men. One of the five men are going to get hungry, not for food or water. They're going to get hungry for, you know, and I won't say it because you pretty much get the idea. So, in the midst of this, we see that the writer and the first mate, they have a fight because the the writer kisses, or just say has a lustful encounter with the singer, and the second mate sees this, and they get into a tussle, and it's like, you know, stop this fighting. We're not supposed to be fighting over this. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. And they said they actually made an agreement on this, but it's like, dude, I don't care. I wanna get some punani. I wanna get some. I know it's kind of harsh to say it like that, but that's yeah. Food is not the option. I want to be, you know. So continuing on, we see the more further down breakdown of the humanity. At the same time this is going on, the skipper's trying to fix the boat, but when he sees certain betrayals and certain things go on, that he's just like, you know what? I'm going to finally leave these people and let them defend for themselves. So, in a bold move that I didn't see coming from them, and this is why you realize the ones that you think wouldn't do certain things actually do, and that shows right there. You don't know a person's character until they do whatever they do. So the skipper actually takes all the food that was down in the pantry of the old derelict ship, and any food that the second mate found and everything, and he takes it and he uh, gets on the boat that they came in and gets out of there, and it's like, just leaves y'all whatever. So in the midst of all these things going on, you know, they're all left behind, but the writer, he comes upon them, the ones that are left, with a gun, and he's pretty much telling him, you know, he didn't care for you guys. He didn't care about any of you. So why should he stay here? And in the midst of this, and see, here's another thing I kind of left out, but I'll add it now. They found a rifle, hunting rifle. They managed to get working, and in the midst of this, he shoots the second mate, killing him when he comes up on him. And this is where you realize the deterioration of man is finally coming to play. It's finally going down the ropes. So we see that the singer has gone with the writer, because she, in a way, portrayed the rich guy. But it's like, so what? Everything's falling apart as it is. So as things go, time progresses, and we see the writer. I mean, that's the writer, but we see the rich guy. His whole world is just falling apart because he doesn't have no. He's just like, he's telling Kubo's character, Kubo's character, kill me, please. I can't stand this. I can't stand being in this anymore. And we see that the singer's character comes back when the professor, the student and the professor leave to find food, whatever. And when that happens, she comes back and finds the rich guy. And I have to say, this is a very sultry moment. He asked her, please help me. I mean, I'm going out of my mind. I can't take this anymore, And she said, wow, you're asking for help now. You've always been so smug with your whatever you have. It's like, okay. And I found this a very seductive moment. It's moments like this where I see women seduce the man, and she didn't have to do much, but all she had to do was just like, I'll help you, because you need food, you need this. So she takes him to where the mushrooms are, and in the midst of these things, she tells him, when you eat these things, you're going to turn into a mushroom, because she's consumed some herself. And right there, this is him. He's getting bum rushed by all these mutated mushroom people. And the title of the American film comes into play, Attack of the Mushroom People. These are all human beings that have been mutated by the mushrooms that grow. Okay. So eventually, and he ate some, but eventually he's going to turn into one himself. So there's no coming back from that. So the writer, the student and Kubo's character comes back to the ship. They lock in a place where they won't get tangled up by these mushroom people, mutated mushroom people. Now, with all that going on, we see that the innocent, the woman, she's starting to break down. And it's not so much a sense of her breaking down from food or anything like it. It's just like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know. And Kubo's character slaps her, kind of like, snap out of it, stop feeling like this, stop thinking like this. But it's it's a loss, It's like I say, she's an innocent. But through all these things, she gets captured by the mushroom people and taken back to where the mushrooms are kept at and everything. And Kubo's character's got to try to find her, and this moment is where it's so a terrifying moment, because we see the innocent become consumed by her very, what he was afraid of happening. She eats of the mushrooms, and we know that in time she will be lost. So this is a moment where you're like, wow, because this is the thing about this film, you don't know where it's going to go. You have no idea. And I love films like that when you don't know, have no inkling of what's going to happen. So he tries to rescue her. He tries to get her back, but he has to fight his way through out of pretty much hell to get away from all these mushroom people. And eventually he breaks out of it, and it's like he has to leave her behind. And the reason why, because she's already lost. As much as he would take her back to the civilization, what you call civilization, he knows she's already changed. So he gets off the island by chance, by the same boat that they came on, that the skipper had taken and got away with, but somehow it came back to the island some kind of way, like it was meant to be there. So Kube's character gets on the boat and he sails off from the island, heads back to Japan, and we don't really know, because he says day turns into night, night turns into day, night turns into day, day turns into night, and it's just like he doesn't know. And in that midst of this, he doesn't know if he's going to live or die anyway. It's almost if you're kind of like with Tom Hanks' character in Castaway. Is he going to make it back to civilization? We don't know. We have no idea. But like I say, to get to wrapping up with the story, we see that he's telling the story, so he does make it back to civilization. He does do that. And we're back to where the beginning of the picture starts, and he's talking to one of the doctors who are there. And I must point out, in the early beginning of the film, we see that he's in a shadowy state, but the light shows his face fairly well. It shows that he's, nothing's wrong with him. But then when we come back to this setting, his back is to us, and we're wondering why is his back to us. And when he turns around, his face has been mutated some kind of way, not because he didn't eat any mushrooms. It's just that somehow coming in contact with some of these mushroom people kind of scarred him. It mutated his face a little bit. So, having come back and telling this wild story to these doctors and everything, what you come to find out is, even though these people that were on the island mutated by these mushrooms, this is where the message of the film really comes into play. Was it more humane to be on that island, or was it or being in so-called civilization where we have conflict, harassment, where we have, murder, we have wars, we have all kinds of human breakdowns. And it's funny thing about it is like we're in a civilized state where cities and people live, but the moral of the story is like, were they really a breakdown? Were the people who are mushrooms changing the mushrooms? Were they really also bad in terms of what civilization is? Because it would be no different, or more to the point, is civilization worse than what's on the island? And that's the grand thing about thinking, because it's a thinking part of it. Because think about this. The whole story of this movie is that what's worse, being turned into a mushroom or living in a society where you have all these conflictions and human anxieties that play on us daily? And remind you, this was 63, and we know there was things going on about in that time frame, but this is what the character of Kubo's character is saying. And it makes you think, because when it pans out, you realize like he's in a city, but there's still madness. There's still a breakdown of humanity. Humanity, or better yet, humans are going to be humans no matter what. And that's pretty much what the movie pretty much wraps up with, because it's not on a good note. I mean, it leaves you thinking. It leaves you with the moral message of what's worse and what's better for us as human beings. And knowing that anybody of us, if you're, and I know for some people, if you're that kind of person, it's like, oh, that's just human beings. We just, that's the society that's brought to us. That's just how we are. We are going to be like that. Well, stop and think about this. If that is the case, why do we act the way we do when we're when we have so much, but we act so little? It's almost like if we're given so much, that's when we see the worst of ourselves. We're supposed to see the better of ourselves. But when we take away a whole lot of things that give us a crutch, it almost seems like we're free of those machinations. And that's kind of what the movie is about. Matango is one of those very crafted films that I feel it's more than just some kind of hand-me-down, horror film or whatever. It's more psychological breakdown of what human beings are really like, to a degree. We can be very good. We can be, civilized in terms of being good to, very compassionate, very, loving to one another. But on that flip side of that coin, we know that some of us, we can be the worst of ourselves no matter where we go. And that's pretty much what the wrap up of the story is. It's kind of, it leads you with that. But that's pretty much what the film is about, and that's pretty much my kind of review, kind of my breakdown of the film. And I feel that I needed to do something to stretch my legs in doing these, because I should mention that since I'm doing this is just a precursor of things to come, because this is a recording. But in time, I will be doing live streams and other kind of things on the horizon. And speaking of which, I'll probably be with Sci-Fi Century, probably do it on a news channel where we're going to talk about Event Horizon, which is coincidentally. But also, I will be joining up with a good friend of ours, Kaiju Goodness Kevin Lambert, on his channel of Entertainment Headquarters, where we're going to talk about, and this is tomorrow, where we're going live talking about his film, or his film, yes, his film. It's his film. It's his, no, it's his channel where we're going to be talking about the 1970, directed by Shiro Honda by mentioning Space Amoeba. So that's going to be a good talk. But other than that, if you haven't seen this film, Matango, I would suggest that you get your copy of it. I mean, this is the Japanese cut. When I say Japanese, this is the Japanese Blu-ray. But I would say get one where it has the subtitles and everything. And yeah, check it out, because this film here, it is one of those few films where I feel like doesn't get enough praise. I mean, we can deal with monsters all day, but you got to remember the real monsters will always be the humankind. So, but that being said, I'm going to leave out with my trademark saying of saying, y'all take care, you be patient, and as my boy, well, I always say it because I always do it like this. Y'all keep the kaiju love alive, all right? Y'all take care now, all right?